And so we have returned. After a successful, albeit short, tenure as the general manager of the Montreal Canadiens, GM Grich has taken a he took a little hiatus. I went on vacation. That's fine. Don't talk about what I did. Nobody needs to know. But we are back. General manager of the Minnesota Wild in the state of hockey. Now, I did a poll. I asked around. I was between four teams. I was between the Calgary Flames, the Ottawa Senators, the Tampa Bay Lightning, and the Minnesota Wild. And obviously, the Minnesota Wild won because we're doing it. And I'm excited. This is the team that I kind of wanted to do from the start, but I wasn't like sold on it. But now that I'm here, I've been through with the assistant general managers over on Twitch. We've looked over the roster, we've looked over everything, and I'm sold. I'm confident that I can turn this team into a winner. Now, the thing about the Minnesota Wild is that they have been mid for my entire existence. Their best playoff performance was the Western Conference Final in 2003. That was before I was even born. This team has not been out of the second round since before my lifetime. And we are here to fix that. Ever since this team signed Zach Parise and Ryan Suter to like those $500 billion contracts for 16 years or whatever they did, the team sucked, to be honest. Well, no, that's the thing. The team didn't suck, right? It was just good enough to make the playoffs, but it wasn't good enough to go deep into the playoffs. So there would be like not really a good draft pick in the next draft, and you would get no satisfaction from a first or second round exit, right? So kind of an interesting team here, but now Parise and Suter are gone. There is a new wave of youth in Minnesota. Obviously, everybody knows about the guy, Kirill Kaprizov. This is the guy who we are going to be building around. But we also have quite a healthy supporting cast of young, up-and-coming players who can kind of aid Kirill in our push for a Stanley Cup, or two or three or four or five or six. Joel Eriksson Ek, 26 years of age, same as Kirill Kaprizov. He's going to be our first line center moving forward. He's a very, very solid two-way forward. He plays a 200-foot game. I'm excited to have this guy on the team. We have him locked up for 6 more years, Joel Eriksson Ek. Zuccarello going to be that first-line playmaker to play with that sniper of Kaprizov. And that first line with a +5 is going to be nasty, to be honest with you. It's going to be disgusting. Zuccarello is awesome, but he's aging, and we have him for another 1 year. But I do believe he has an extension that kicks in after this season. Matthew Boldy is the big young piece of the forward core. This kid is 22 years of age, medium elite potential. He's already 86 overall, and we have him locked up for 7 years. And I know that $7 million price tag looks pretty big now, but in this game with salary cap inflation, if we tried to lock him up in 3 or 4 years, he'd probably be asking for like $11 million. So this contract, while it looks big now, it's going to be an absolute bargain in as little as 3 years, even. Now, Marco Rossi is also the other forward piece that we're going to try and be building around. When Joel Eriksson Ek is kind of nearing the end of that 6-year contract, who's going to be that guy to step up and fill that void on the first line center? It's going to be Marco Rossi. Now, we have him on his entry-level contract for the next 2 seasons, and he does have medium elite potential. So, Marco Rossi is definitely a big piece to build around. Now, the rest of the forward core is kind of uneventful. Like, Ryan Hartman is fine, I guess. Marcus Johansson is fine. Goudreau sucks. Foligno sucks. And Liam Ogren is the other guy that we are going to want to be building around. Our fourth line center at the minute, but I mean, maybe we play him up on that third line during the simulation. Who knows? Who knows? We'll get there when we get there. But Liam Ogren, we have for his entire entry-level contract, which is going to be awesome. He, as well, with that medium top 6 potential. That is potentially our second line center of the future. Over on the D core now, this team has Jonas Brodin, Jared Spurgeon. I'm sure you've seen this all before, Brodin and Spurgeon on the Minnesota Wild, right? Nothing's changed. But Brodin for the next 5 years and Spurgeon for the next 4 years. So these are two big guns on the blue line, and they're locked up. Jacob Middleton, I did not know he was built like that. 84 overall for 15 points. Congrats, buddy. I guess defensive defenseman. Defensive defenseman. I'll be quiet. I'll be quiet. Another 2 years for Middleton. He could be a very, very solid guy on that blue line. Just a solid penalty killer, fight starter. Jacob Middleton. Look at that mustache. Ooh, sexy. Brock Faber. Oh, man. I'm excited for this kid. I really am. In between the pipes is Gustafsson and Fleury. Gustafsson we have for 3 more years at a really, really decent price. And then Fleury we have just for 1 more year. As far as the AHL goes, we don't really have anybody too impressive. Jesper Wallstedt, obviously, with that medium elite potential. I would like him to be the backup goalie this year in the season simulation. But I have to talk to you guys about that. There's something that I need to ask before I make any moves. And we're going to get there. We're going to get there. But let's keep continuing on here. AHL prospects, we don't really have anybody that's going to knock your socks off. We do have this guy, and I'm not 100% sure how to say his name. Usually I'm pretty good with names. But I'm going to roll with Marat Kuznatinov. And now, you all can yell at me if that's wrong. You all can come to my house and pull my limbs off. That's fine. Just, if I'm saying it wrong, just tell me how to say it. But I'm going to roll with Marat Kuznatinov because that's, when I read it, that's what I see. So that's what I'm going to say. Medium top 9 is solid. 21 years of age, 76 overall. There is a chance that if he has a really, really good year in the AHL, that he can jump up that potential to maybe medium top 6 or even high top 9. So maybe we're interested in like a first line playmaker for that AHL because right now he's playing with another sniper and Jujar Kara. So maybe we'll look into that. Maybe we'll look into that. But as far as the AHL and the prospect pool go, we don't really have anybody. Carson Lambos is cool as well, medium top 4, 20 years of age at 70 overall, and we have him for 3 more years. So I don't know. There's some interesting guys. There's some interesting guys for sure. But there is one big discussion that I really want to have. I should say there is 2 discussions that I really want to have. And the first one is, I mean, what do we do with this team, right? What do we do? Where do we go? What direction do we build? I mean, do we even build? Do we tear down? Do we build up? Do we try and run for the playoffs? Or do we try and run for the lottery? I don't know. So I'm posing that question to you. There is going to be 0 simulation in this video because of this question. What the hell do we do? Okay? Do we trade away pieces and try and lose every game? Or do we trade 4 pieces and try and push ourselves deep into the playoffs? I don't know. What I'm thinking, though, is we look at this. We have Kirill Kaprizov. This is 1, 2, 3 years that we have Kaprizov. His contract matches up with Matt Zuccarello. His contract expires a year before Jared Spurgeon and a year before Ryan Hartman. And it expires a year after Marco Rossi and Brock Faber's entry-level contract. So what I'm seeing here when I look at that, our best player is we have a 3 to 4 year Stanley Cup window. When I look at this team on paper, I see a playoff team, right? But that's all I see. A team that just makes it into the playoffs and doesn't really do anything. And that's been the Minnesota Wild for the last 20 years, right? So do we take this 3 to 4 year Stanley Cup window and do we run with it? Do we build up pieces, build up the bottom 6, build up the blue line, and try and run for the playoffs, win a cup in the first 3 to 4 years, and then blow it up? Or do we blow it up right now and then use this 3 years that we have Kaprizov for to try and rebuild a new core around him so that by the time we sign him to a new contract, we're starting a new Stanley Cup window? Now, I don't know what direction you guys want to go with that, so leave it in the comments below. I'm going to read every single comment. Join the Discord. There'll be a link to that in the description. Let me know what you think in Discord as well. I'm going to be talking about that with everybody in my Discord. I'm going to be taking every message into account come the decision process. All right. Now, there is another big discussion that we need to have as well. Okay. I am one for realism. Okay. But I also understand that this is its own universe, right? This is not real life, obviously. This is a video game. But a lot of the players on the team in real life have a no move clause or a no trade clause. Now, this list includes Kirill Kaprizov, Joel Eriksson Ek, Matt Zuccarello, Marcus Foligno, Ryan Hartman, Frederick Gaudreau, Marcus Johansson, Jonas Brodin, and Marc-Andre Fleury, and Jared Spurgeon. All right? All of those players either have a modified no trade clause, a full no trade clause, or a full no move clause. Now, my question to you guys, and really, really, really think hard on this, please, is do we want to honor those no move clauses or not? Now, there is an interesting way that we could do this because I can't honor a full no trade clause because if I did that, then Joel Eriksson Ek would be stuck on this team for the next 6 years. He just would be. There would be no way that we could get rid of him. We'd be stuck with him till he's 32 and he's trash, right? That's boring, right? If I can't make any trades, if I can't switch up the roster, improve the roster, then it's boring. It's repetitive. It's the same team year after year after year, and it's just not very fun to watch. So, if we do decide to honor the no move clauses and the no trade clauses, well, I would lump them all under the no trade clause title, and I would make them all modified. So a player like Joel Eriksson Ek has a full no move clause for the next 6 years, right? What I would do is I would instead make it a no trade clause and I would modify it. So if I wanted to trade Joel Eriksson Ek, I could. I would just ask him for his 10-team trade list. He would give it to me and I would trade him to one of those teams. Now, obviously, EA Sports is not as in-depth as that, and they don't have an option where I can just say, hey, Joel, give me your 10-team trade list. We're going to move on from you, right? I can't do that. So what I would have to do instead is I would have to go to a random number generator, and I would ask for 10 numbers between 1 and 32, and those 10 numbers would correspond to the teams 1 through 32 on alphabetical order, and then I would choose one of those 10 teams to trade Eriksson Ek to. Now, to make it even harder and to kind of honor that no move clause a little bit more, I could only trade Joel Eriksson Ek to one of the 10 teams that wants him, right? So if I find out that there's 10 teams and only 2 of them, he matches their block and they want him on the team, then I can only trade him between those 2 teams, right? I can't trade him to the other 8. I can't even think about it, okay? Now, hopefully I explained that well enough. I don't think I did. I do a lot of rambling and I don't really listen to myself when I speak. So hopefully I explained that well enough. I guess we're going to see. If there's any confusion, then just comment that and I'll try my best to clear it up. I personally don't really care what the consensus is on the no trade clause, honoring or not. I think it could be a fun, different flavor. It could be a fun, different element of the franchise mode that I've never done before. I've never honored a no trade clause in this game before. I've always just traded whoever has the highest cap hit for a whole bunch of prospects and just blown the team up. So let me know what you guys think. The thing to keep in mind, all of those players that I listed that have a no move clause, if we decide to honor them, they're stuck, right? We can't trade these guys. We would be stuck, or well, we can obviously. I mean, it's like I just said, we can trade them, but it'll be a lot harder. Now, if we do decide to honor these no move clauses, we are kind of strong-armed into like a 6-year contention window, because a lot of guys like Eriksson Ek, Spurgeon, Brodin, they have like 5 and 6 year contracts, and if we're stuck with these guys for the next half decade, we're kind of forced to compete with that roster. So I don't know. Take that into account when you're thinking about it. If we want to do that 3 year Stanley Cup window, then it would be a lot easier to have free reign on wherever we trade these guys when we're done. But it's just like I said, it's that different element, that different flavor of having to be more methodical when you're thinking about it. All right, so let me know kind of what your guys' thoughts are with all that. The next thing that I want to talk about is most likely very noticeable. When I am on the trade screen, the Anaheim Ducks, the first team in alphabetical order, they're always there for me. They're always right there. And when I hit LT, it is always the Arizona Coyotes as well. Just kidding. It's the Boston Bruins. Like I said, I am one for realism, and so I have taken the liberty of relocating the Arizona Coyotes to Utah and making them the Utah Rattlesnakes. Now, not a lot of creativity went into the naming of the team. I just Googled animals that live in Utah, and then rattlesnakes was the most badass one that I saw. So, rattlesnakes it was. As you can see here, it is the exact same roster as the Arizona Coyotes. It's just under a different team. It's under a different moniker. But yeah, it's the exact same roster. Goalies here are the exact same, and draft picks as well are as they should be. So, did not want to catch anybody off guard with that. The Utah Rattlesnakes are around. They are here, and they are in the Central Division. You can see there, number 7. Um, yeah, that. One more thing here. One other thing that I have done is I have created a couple created players. There is a channel in my Discord where you guys can go in and you can suggest created players that will be added to future GM modes. One player that I created is John Frog. Don't ask me why I named him John Frog. It was just kind of the first thing that came into my mind. But he's a 6'4". I think he's a power forward. I can't remember. I made him a couple weeks ago, but he's a stud. And then the other player I created is Charlie Conway. Now apparently he wears number 96, but I haven't seen that movie in like 10 years, so I made him number 37 for some reason. You guys can yell at me. You guys can just lay into me on that one. That's my bad. All right, I'll own that. I'll own that. There's also a couple other created players that are in future years. I thought there might be another one that's like a little bit lower down, but I guess not. I guess not. There are a couple players that are down in future years, so there's like 2 or 3 for next year, and then 2 or 3 for the year after that. So that just about covers all the bases. All right, so just to recap here, we have 2 different ways that we can take this team, and I want to know your thoughts. We have ourselves a 3 or 4 year Stanley Cup window. We can go all in for the first 3 or 4 years, and then we can blow it all up. We can strip the team for pieces and just sell it off. Or we can just do that now. We can dismantle the whole roster, build up draft capital and prospects, and then in the next 3 years, when Kaprizov is ready for a new deal, we sign him up, and that's the start of our new Stanley Cup window. So blow it up now, full rebuild, or Stanley Cup contention for the next 3 or 4 years. You guys decide on that. And the next thing that I need you to decide is no move clauses, yes or no. Now, it's like I said, they would all be no trade clauses and they would all be modified. So everybody that has a no trade clause can still be traded. It would just be a lot harder for us to do so. That could be like a different flavor, different element, right? I don't really care what you pick for that one, but I will let you know that I really think that this team can compete for the next 3 or 4 years. Give me that 3 year window. Let me cook. Let me cook for a quarter decade, and hopefully we can win a Stanley Cup here in Minnesota. For the most part, that should be it here for episode 1. Let me know your guys' thoughts on that all down in the comment section below. Make sure you join the Discord. There's going to be a discussion on this episode in the Discord later. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you in episode number 2, where the season simulation will begin. Thank you so much for watching. Appreciate you coming out, and we will see you in the next one.